Hello and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. So today's topic is nutrition, and the title is fat loss versus water weight loss. So recently I was talking with a fellow trainer, and they were discussing a situation in which an athlete had lost weight for a sport performance factor. They wanted to meet like a certain weight class. And they said that the athlete explained to them what they had done to lose that weight, and the trainer was a little confused as to how what they had done had actually worked based on information that we had presented in our past podcasts. So, this is what the situation was. The person had kept their calories the same, and this is all kind of like hearsay. So this is like you're getting it from the third person who heard it. So I'm not sure if all these facts are true, but the concept of the answer of the podcast will be true. So they said that the athlete had kept their calories the same, but they focused on only fats and protein. They consumed zero carbs. And the athlete really did a good job checking through all the labels, making sure they didn't consume any carbohydrates. So that athlete had lost weight, made their weight class, and the fellow trainer was confused. And they said, if calories are the most important aspect, which is what you teach in your podcasts, how did they lose weight even though they didn't change the calories? So, awesome question. Wonderfully, amazing, wonderful question. I love these questions. So, this person lost weight even though they didn't change their calories. And what this person was referring to is in what we've taught in our past podcasts has been that calories is the most significant component of all diets. Meaning calories, if you're going to put your effort anywhere, if you're going to put your attention and focus anywhere, it should be on calories absolutely first. So we teach this in podcast number 41, titled Diet Right, What Matters Most. So if you've never listened to that, you can go to the Podbean app and you can kind of find our channel and search through the past podcasts, or you can do it on Google. I don't think some of the newer platforms like iTunes, I think they only hold like the most recent 100 podcasts, so they might not hold all the way back to 41. But I think you can find it Google, if you can find it on Podbean. So again, the title is Diet Right, What Matters Most. The idea of that podcast is to say, if you're going to put your attention anywhere towards on a diet, what's the most important aspect? And that is calories. So calories determine the direction of a diet. If I eat surplus of calories, my weight will go up. If I eat a deficit of calories, my weight will go down. If I eat kind of maintenance level average calories, what I normally eat, my weight kind of stays the same. So calories determine the direction of kind of weight change, or if there is any change at all. The second most important component is protein, and that's because it helps build and repair structures of the body. So it helps with overall just kind of appearance and muscle mass and all the other good stuff that we want. The third most important component is meal timing and frequency. So am I eating my calories when I need them the most? And am I eating as frequently as I use my calories? So that's kind of the third most important. The fourth most important is macronutrient quality. So whether I'm having, good carbs versus quote unquote bad carbs, good fats versus bad fats, that kind of stuff. And then the fifth is kind of everything else, like, fat loss pills, whether something's organic or not, all that kind of stuff. So they said, if this athlete didn't change their calories, how did their weight go down? Well, the information in podcast number 41 and the information we teach in regards to calories, protein, meal timing, meal frequency, all that stuff is most, unless otherwise noted, it has to do with fat loss, not water weight loss. So we've talked about a bunch in past podcasts, over and over and over again, many, many, many times. We've talked about how carbohydrates plus sodium plus water. When you eat foods that have carbohydrates and it has sodium in it, and then you drink fluid, your body forms a substance called glycogen, and it keeps that in your muscles. So glycogen is stored energy. It's energy that your body keeps in its muscles for when it wants to use the muscles. It stores the carbohydrates as glucose. So when you eat carbohydrates and your body breaks that carbohydrate down to its kind of most smallest usable form, it's in the form of glucose. And that is what we would consider gasoline to our body. That's what we, gasoline for a car. We have glucose for our body. Now, our body can run off ketones and other things, but let's just make this simple here. And just say that glucose is energy. So if I eat carbohydrates, sodium, and water, I form glycogen, sorry. Glycogen, okay, since it's formed with carbohydrate, water, and sodium, glycogen contains water. So therefore, if you have a lot of glycogen in a muscle, it'll have a lot of water in a muscle. And water has weight. So water weighs something. So if I have a lot of carbohydrates, sodium, and water in my body, I will weigh heavier than if I were to eliminate carbohydrates, sodium, and water from my body, I would weigh less, correct? So if they did a diet that was fats and protein only, and that athlete really made sure they didn't eat any carbohydrates. If they don't eat any carbohydrates, then they can't form glycogen. So remember, glycogen requires sodium, carbs, and water. So the only way the water gets stored in the muscle and it's around for us, like it's in our body to be weighed, okay, on a scale, water has to have sodium and carbs with it. If I don't eat carbohydrates, I can't store the water in the muscle because I can't create glycogen. Therefore, the water that I would drink that I would typically have stored in my muscles will just come right out through me and I'll pee it out. I'll go to the restroom and pee it all out. So if that athlete had previously had glycogen in their body, they used it up by being active and using the energy of the glycogen, but they didn't eat carbohydrates so its body could replace and replenish the glycogen. That means they couldn't hold water and therefore they weighed less. So when somebody loses weight, and it's just within a single day or a single couple hours, or even over like a 2 or 3 day period, we're going to talk about this in a second here, how much weight. But when somebody loses weight quickly, it's almost always a water weight manipulation versus fat loss. Fat loss is the burning of stored fat for energy. So we have to have a caloric deficit so that way our body requires energy from something other than the food because we're not giving it enough food. So it taps into stored fat and says, okay, I'm going to burn you for energy. So it's like if I told you want to have a big bonfire and you have, 500 pallets of wood and I only brought one log. And we had agreed to use only my log, but how are we going to have a bonfire? We have to use your wood too, right? So if I eat less than I need, the body says, crap, I still need calories. Where am I going to get it from? I'll have to get it from my stored fat. So that's why when you reduce calories, it promotes fat loss. As you lose fat, your body would weigh less. So when you reduce calories, in the long term, it does reduce body weight. But those effects are usually kind of slower to develop. On average, we can lose 1 to 2 pounds a week. And this is debatable, and there's a whole bunch of asterisk to everything I'm saying, like a lot of issues here. But on average, we can think of fat loss as happening of about 1 to 2 pounds a week at most. Like you can lose 0.1 pound, sure. Okay, good luck measuring that. But you can lose less than a pound a week, of course. But the most you would want to lose and contribute it to being actual fat loss is about 1 to 2 pounds a week. Whereas with water weight loss, if you manipulate carbohydrates, you can have people lose 8 to 10 pounds in 24 hours. So weight loss is different whether you're talking about water weight change or stored fat change. So for athletes and people wanting to make certain weight classes, it's better for them to manipulate water weight as they get closer to the event because they're going to run out of time for fat loss. So if they have, say, 12 weeks before an event, say the 11 weeks before the event, they want to do a slight, some kind of caloric modification or some kind of caloric control. So that way they don't gain weight and they can actually lose a little bit of weight. So let's say the person actually has to lose weight. That's a big caveat here. So let's say 12 weeks before a contest, an athlete has to lose, say, let's just say they're 12 weeks, 12 pounds over. Okay. So they have to lose 12 pounds in 12 weeks. Well, they would want to clean up their food, make sure they're eating kind of at maintenance level, a little bit of surplus around their workouts, a little bit of deficit away from their workouts, and they can start picking away at about a half a pound to a pound of fat a week. And you can even be conservative and just take a half a pound of fat off. That way they don't have to go into such a huge caloric deficit that they're going to lose training strength and energy. And then their training quality will go down, and then their performance would go down. So let's say they're going to lose a half a pound, okay? They're only going to do that for about 11 weeks. The last week, we're going to kind of modify our carbohydrates to lose the rest of the weight. So they're only going to lose about 5.5 pounds through actual fat loss. But they have 12 pounds they had to lose to get to their weight goal, okay? So they still have 6.5 pounds left. How are they going to get rid of that? That can be done by eliminating carbohydrates in their diet. If their body does not have carbohydrates, it can't hold on to water. Everything they drink will just be peed right back out in regards to glycogen. So they will weigh less. And you can have athletes lose 6.5 pounds in 12 hours easily, just by cutting out carbohydrates. Then sometimes people will do saunas or hot baths and stuff like that to pull out even more water from the muscles and the skin. So there's a lot of manipulation that can be done in regards to general weight loss when you include water weight manipulation. So fat loss occurs at about a pound or 2 a week, and I would argue that a pound a week is most reasonable. It's doable for most people, and it's sustainable results, meaning you won't just bounce right back and, freak out and gain all the weight back. So a pound a week is pretty reasonable for fat loss. Whereas with weight loss, you can lose a pound an hour. So there is a limit. Like, you can't just lose 40 pounds in one day. You'd be in some pretty crazy health situation in that case. But there is a certain amount of water that is held in our muscles. And if you manipulate carbohydrates, you can manipulate that amount of water and get it down to minimum as possible, and therefore reduce your body weight. So the fact that you can manipulate water weight and that looks like you've lost weight on a scale, which is what most people use to determine fat loss. So they look at change of a scale to determine fat loss, and that's not accurate. The weight we weigh has a lot more to do with other factors than just the body fat that we hold. So it has to do with water weight, obviously, because that's what we're talking about. It also, like how heavy our hair is, our bones, our muscles themselves, let alone the water that they contain. So there's a lot of weight to us. There's things that contribute weight more than just fat loss. So if I see a number on a scale move, I'm not specifically certain where that number moved from, like why. We assume it's always fat loss, but that isn't always the case. So we've talked about in one of the very first podcasts is that weight loss is not linear. And that refers to, and it discusses the fact that a scale isn't the greatest way to measure progress in terms of fat loss. So let me see if I have a good kind of podcast for you guys to check that out. So let's see here. Okay. There is a podcast number 389 titled Trainer Education Tracking Client Progress. That would be a good way, a good podcast for you guys to listen to that has to do with how you would track client progress, which would be how you track your own progress. It talks about using a scale, using pictures, using body part measurements, using different types of body percentage readers like skin fold measurements, bioelectrical impedance devices, DEXA scans, which is by far the best. So if you want to learn more about how to track what results you want most accurately, listen to podcast 389, Trainer Education, Tracking Client Progress. Okay? So that'll be a good one to check out. So, the fact that you can manipulate weight simply by manipulating water is counted on by a lot of weight loss programs. In the sense of they know they can manipulate your weight by manipulating water. You'll think it's fat loss, therefore you'll think their program is effective. So this works with any diet that asks for an immediate reduction of carbohydrates and sodium. If any diet you do at all reduces the amount of carbohydrates and sodium you consume, you will lose weight, but it's most likely going to be related to water weight, especially within the first week. Remember, we only lose about a pound of fat a week. So if you start a new diet and you lose 3 pounds in the first week, you did not lose 3 pounds of fat. You did not lose 3 pounds of fat. Once again, you did not lose 3 pounds of fat. Okay? So you have to recognize that the first week I might lose 3 pounds, the next week I only lose 1. That doesn't mean that the diet was ineffective. The first week you lost a lot of water weight. The second week there was no more water to be lost, so what you're seeing now is more likely to be just fat loss. So just because you went from 3 pounds lost in the first week to 1 pound lost in the second week doesn't mean the diet lessened. It just means the diet's actually working now. The initial results of the first week were bullshit water weight loss. So any diet that asks for a reduction of sodium and carbohydrates will cause weight loss, but it's water weight loss, especially the first week. Also, fat burner pills, they count this in all the time. So they have some form of natural diuretic, no matter what bullshit they put on the label. And they have some form of energy promotion, no matter what bullshit they put on the label. So whether it's caffeine, whether it's natural energy boosters, blah, 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 bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. So they're going to give you something that gives you fake energy. And they're going to give you something that's a diuretic effect, meaning it's pushing water out. You're going to feel good because of the energy. But you're going to see the scale go down because of the diuretic. And you're going to think this fat burner pill is a freaking miracle, and you're losing all this weight, all this fat. Bullshit. It's just water coming out. And once your body adapts to whatever the energy mechanism is, once it gets used to the caffeine or gets used to the natural booster, once it kind of adapts to that stimulus, you'll no longer have the energy. You also, once the water weight's out, you'll no longer see the scale going down as much. So you're going to take that pill, towards the end it's going to look like the pill's not working so well, so they're going to say you might have to buy another one. Go ahead and buy more. It'll work even better now. Bullshit. All fat burner pills do is give you fake energy and they push water out. They do not help you lose fat. Okay? So you can argue with me, but good luck. So HCG shots is another thing that's common for fat loss. That's an absolute bullshit trick. Is they're just giving you a male-based hormone, essentially, that has a side effect of suppressing appetite. It's not even what HCG is meant for. It's not even what it's made for. A side effect of it is suppressing appetite. So you get HCG shots and you only eat 500 calories a day. It is not the HCG that's helping you lose fat. It's the fact that it's hiding the fact that you actually feel miserable and your body's dying while you only eat 500 calories a day. So a lot of, and there's more, tons more, like ketogenic, for example, is a perfect diet example of let me eliminate carbohydrates and be super duper excited because I lost 3 to 5 pounds the first week and think it's all fat loss, and now all of a sudden I think ketogenic diets are the best thing in the world. I'm telling everybody and my brother, about ketogenic diets, and they're the best thing and everybody needs to be doing this, and oh my god, you'd be amazed how much weight you lose, blah 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 blah. Bullshit. It's not fat loss, it's water weight loss. So we need to be more aware of what the hell is happening when we look at a scale. So fat only comes off at about 1 pound a week. So if you lose weight faster than that, it's a mixture of water weight coming off and some fat coming off, unless you don't manipulate calories. If there's no caloric manipulation, then all of the thing that's coming off, all of the weight that's coming off is water weight. Okay? So it's important that we recognize there's a difference. The information that we provide in podcast number 41, and when we talk about calories being the most important, we're referring to fat loss effects, not water weight loss effects. Water weight loss effects are absolutely temporary. Once you stop whatever the manipulating force is, all that weight will come right back because your body will retain water again. So once you stop the diet, that was a calorie kind of restriction, a carbohydrate restriction. Once you put carbs back in, the weight will come back on. Okay? Once you stop that fat burner pill and you're no longer getting that diuretic effect, the weight will come back on. Once you stop HCG, your body's going to go, holy shit, I've been underfed forever. I need to eat everything under the sun. And you're going to gain most of your weight back. So we need to recognize what we're doing. If you're doing a diet specific for water weight loss because you're wanting to get weight class in a sport, awesome. Good, fine. That's part of sports. So I help clients do that all the time. I write clients for different sports. I've helped with wrestling. I've helped with powerlifting, other like strongman. Even like there's subclasses in strongman for in regards to like body weight. So I've helped people do that myself. It's totally fine. It's healthy. You can do it and undo it within 48 hours. No problem whatsoever. They perform great. They're totally fine, taken care of, well protected. So there's tons of ways to do it correctly. But we know that the weight loss effect in those cases is absolutely temporary and just so we can reach a body weight that allows us to move forward towards our goals of that sport. It is not fat loss. Okay? So if you do need help for cutting for sports, of course, email us if you want any help. We're always happy to help. Our email is brutalirongym@gmail.com. But recognize that if you want a fat loss effect, fat loss really only comes at about a pound a week, okay? Now, can you push it and do more? Yes. So I've lost 50 pounds in less than 10 weeks. I've lost 50 pounds in 10 weeks twice, and I've lost 50 pounds in 8 weeks once. So I've lost, for 10 weeks in a row, I did 5 pounds of loss a week. So I know you can push it further. I'm not a dummy, so I know that's true. But guess how much of that 50 pounds stayed off? Not all of it, okay? So a lot of that loss was water weight manipulation because of what I had to do nutritionally to get an average of 5 pounds a week off me for 10 freaking weeks in a row. So there are tricks you can do. And I've even helped people do it for like weight loss goals where they won money. So I've helped people do it. The part that I'm preaching about and what I'd want the most for you is to just recognize what's actually happening. So it's fine if you want to do that, okay? If you want to manipulate water weight so you can get to a certain weight for some effect, fine, great, that's wonderful. We do it all the time, okay? But it's the fact that you actually know that it's water weight manipulation, not fat loss. So I don't want everybody getting tricked into thinking fat loss things work when it's actually just a water weight effect that the company or product or so-and-so is trying to use to manipulate you and fool you into thinking their thing works, okay? So that's a little bit of information about water weight loss versus fat loss. If you have any extra questions or if you have anything you want clarity on, always email us. Our email is brutalirongym@gmail.com. I sincerely appreciate you guys listening to these podcasts. I sincerely appreciate it when you share the podcasts. So it's so cool seeing new listeners and having new listeners get in touch. So thank you so much for supporting us. So we want to make sure we support you. Okay, so that's why we give the information. We hope that it's clear and usable. And if you have any questions, we're always happy to help. So that way you get the most for the time invested into these podcasts. Okay, cool. So if you need anything, our email is brutalirongym@gmail.com. If you like the podcast, please share it with family and friends. The more people we help, the happier the world will be. If you like the information, you can find more from us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Brutal Iron Gym. And if you have any questions, feedback, or suggestions, we'd love to hear from you. The podcast is for you, so we want to know what you want to learn about. You can tell us at our email at brutalirongym@gmail.com. As always, I hope this was helpful. And thank you for listening. And thank you for watching.